Hello and welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Summer Newman Ernest, and today joining us is Craigor Brown. Probably looks a little familiar to you. He is the sculptor, resident sculptor here in town, and today we're going to talk to him a little bit about his background, the projects that he's working on, and what's coming up in the future for him. So thanks so much for being with us, Craigor.
Glad to be here.
To start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know everybody passes by and sees you, but where are you from? Just a little background info.
Well, I'm a Birmingham native. I grew up in Vestavia Hills and went to college at the University of Montevallo, and that was a long time ago. But played baseball and went to college on a baseball scholarship, and that's actually what got me
to Montevallo.
Right. And the art department there is one of only 2 accredited in the state of Alabama, and studied graphic design there.
So did you know going into it that you were going to be an art major, or was that always a passion?
I was a graphic design major.
Okay, from the get-go.
But unfortunately, when I graduated was when computers first really sort of took over the industry, and without 2 years computer experience, there was no chance of getting into a grad school that could really help. So because of baseball, I had some money left over and was able to go to a school in the south of France called Lacoste School of the Arts, and it actually is through Cleveland Institute of the Arts.
Okay. And
there I discovered limestone, and limestone is essentially just uncooked marble.
Sure,
But it was, I guess, really love at first whack. I mean, when I first started carving in it, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And
so that was your first time to do any kind of sculpting?
Anything that was reductive. Everything I had done prior to that was constructive. You know, what you start
building as opposed to reducing.
Exactly. You start with a blank canvas and you build a painting.
Sure.
Same with a drawing, same with, you know, working in clay and things of that nature, but this was destruction for creation. It was just
fun and challenging at the same time.
And, you know, great anger management.
So definitely. You know. So how long were you in Europe, or what?
Well, I went for the summer, and they gave me a scholarship to stay for the fall.
Wow.
And then they hired me to come back as an assistant professor the next year.
Wow, that's impressive. At what age was this? In your 20s, obviously.
This was right out of Montevallo.
That's impressive.
So, and from there, I went to Italy. And the second term of when I was an assistant professor, we had a new director come in, and she had come from Rome with RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, and she looked at all our work and asked us what we wanted to do, and I told her that, you know, I felt that I had a good grasp on limestone and I wanted to graduate up to marble.
Right.
And at the time I thought, you know, the only place that was beautiful white marble like this was in Italy. And I told her that's where I wanted to go. And so we sat down and she got me an application for a Guggenheim scholarship, which I got, and was able to work in Venice, Italy for 4 months. Got to work in the museum, and at the same time they asked me to stay on for another month to work with the conservation and restoration of the collection sculpture, which you know, was an amazing experience.
Sure, yeah.
And these are the same people that did the restoration on the Sistine Chapel, and it's
so learning from the best, for sure.
Yeah,
and working with the best.
You know, and it's kind of funny that at Montevallo there's no way I could have imagined that it would grow into that. And, but the foundation I got at Montevallo, I was ready for those steps in the sense of, you know, just the quality of education that Montevallo provided and the basics in terms of, you know, just core art theory, art techniques, and well,
I know they're proud to claim you as a graduate of Montevallo as well.
I give them all the credit in the world. I really do.
So you're in Europe, you know, sculpting, learning. How in the world did you find yourself in Sylacauga?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I went to Italy, like I said, and it was through Peter Rockwell, Norman Rockwell's son. It was his recommendation that I go to Carrara to Studio Nicoli. And that's where I thought the finest marble in the world was, and the only place that had it. And I went there, and, you know, it wasn't like vacationing at the Ritz-Carlton and anything. I was a struggling student.
Sure, starving artist.
That was sort of my postgraduate work. That and a mining town kind of thing, very blue collar.
Right.
And started working in marble there, and probably had enough money to make it a couple of months, and a couple of months turned into about 2.5 years from selling out of the studio there, and it was interesting it was comforting to be able to kind of say, okay, I've gotten everything that I need from Carrara,
right,
and move back on my own terms. But
right.
But I came back and I was showing in Birmingham with Finley. Donnie Finley had a gallery in Mountain Brook, and at that time the museum here in Sylacauga actually would sponsor regional artists, and I had a show here about 20 years ago, and I came down, and that's when I first found out about the marble here.
Sylacauga Marble.
Exactly.
Which had been, 45 minutes away from me all along.
Well, and that's what's crazy, that I went halfway around the world chasing the marble when
right.
I was 45 minutes
right
away
here.
from where I grew up, and about an hour away from where I went to college.
Right. Which, if you're from the Marble City, obviously you know about it, and since we were in elementary school, been taught about it, but I guess that we haven't done a great job in promoting it statewide or even nationwide, and I hope that will change.
Well, it used to be, and that's kind of what's taking place now, and
right.
it's exciting to see what's happening, and we'll kind of get into that.
Yeah, let's get into that in a minute. Let's talk about, because I know that you're such a focal figure here in town.
The man in the cage.
Yeah. Well, and even before that, in fact, the way we met was you were in front of City Hall. Tell us a little bit about that piece that now stands in front of City Hall.
Well, Sylacauga Emerging is a piece that Dr. Spears and I sat down
Shirley
after.
or Ted?
Dr. Ted. I'll use
you have to
Dr.
clarify.
first name.
Yeah, you have to clarify.
But I came down, I found out about the Marble Festival through a friend of mine had a Alabama Business Journal, and I had no
right.
idea that this was going on, but 20 years ago I thought this would be a great place to have something like that. And,
yeah.
And it was just wonderful to see that they were doing it, and so
right.
I called, and the number that I had was the mayor's office, and I called, and lo and behold, Sam Wright answers the phone, and I, straight to the mayor.
Sure, of course, that was
felt really important.
The type of person.
Felt really important,
yeah.
But just so welcoming and so, just unassuming, and it was a blessing, and came down, got set up, and showed them a portfolio, and kind of told them a little bit about my past and
right.
and how I had been here and how excited I was to see what they were doing, and
right.
And Dr. Ted approached me and asked if I would be interested in doing a piece for the city, that apparently they had purchased a block and had commissioned a sculptor from Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And it had actually gone all the way over to Athens, Georgia, not Greece.
No.
But and for whatever reason, he was unable to do it, and so they shipped the block back. And,
wow.
And so he and I sat down, and I had seen the Fallen Star sculpture and the piece by Bill Whetstone that's in front of the museum, and both of them are abstract, and
right.
and I really felt that the city needed something that was representational, that was, that someone that was 4 years old and someone that was 94 could easily identify with it.
And, exactly.
And so that was the basis, and then took into account, the Marble City, the past, present, and future, and with it, and the past of that piece is really, this was the lifeblood of Sylacauga. Marble
Definitely.
was for, well over 100 years.
For sure.
And it still has sort of on the back burners, and
the potential for a long time, yeah.
And then, and presently, you have Amia, you have Emery's, and on the industrial side, and at that time, it was Alabama Marble that was the only one cutting it out, and
right.
dimensional stone, and stone that I can use as a sculptor, and stone
right.
that can
not the powder form that goes through in the trains,
countertops
yeah.
and
yeah.
things of that nature, and and now that industry's growing again, the dimensional stone. People can identify with a countertop, or they can identify with a sculpture. They can identify with, a beautiful mantle.
And just appreciate the beauty of the stone itself,
exactly.
much less as a sculpted finished piece.
And it's something, you know, you really can't identify with slurry.
No.
White mud other than...
No, it's just something for us to get angry about as the trains are blocking town. Yeah.
But remember, trains, getting stopped by those trains, that's a positive thing.
I know.
That means that the industry is booming. But the beauty of the marble is the marble's not leaving. You know, Sylacauga became a textile city for years. Yes. And obviously Avondale Mills shut down and Russell Mills came in, and they've since packed up and taken the work elsewhere.
But and we've seen that nationwide, not just in Sylacauga.
Exactly. But the marble's not going anywhere, and it's kind of good to see them getting back to dancing with the one that brung them, so to speak.
And I've heard Dr. Shirley Spears speak about that as well. It's something that they can't take away from us, and so it's something that we do need to capitalize on here in the city, because it isn't going anywhere, and it's unique to us, especially here in the States.
But with the sculptor, the reason I settled on the design was, you know, the tools that he has are the same tools that have been used for thousands of years, not hundreds of years, a hammer and a chisel. And he's carving himself out of the block, you know, working in, and he's only halfway emerged because there's a lot more to be
left to do,
And at the same time, you know, he's made of marble, just as this is the Marble City, and and there's just generations and generations of families that was the mainstay. That was how they made their living, and before Avondale Mills came in, and things changed a little bit, but it's, for me, someone who loves marble as much as I do, it's great to see the focus move back to the marble.
Well, and I think it's so important just to have it in such a visible location so that everybody traveling through town, and not only do we have the stunning sculpture, which is in and of itself just breathtaking, is that now it has become the logo, or the official logo, is that correct, for the Chamber of Commerce?
Exactly. And, you know, talk about humbling. And, you know, that was something that with this piece, this was Dr. Ted and the Arts Council and myself sitting down, and that's who I was working for.
Right.
And while I was working on it out at the city garage area, city works department, you know, I would talk to those guys, but for the most part, you know, sort of you keep your target audience in mind, and my target audience was the Arts Council.
Right.
And then when we moved it here and I was finishing it here, it was interesting. People would come up and they would, for the first couple of weeks, they were kind of afraid to approach. But
yeah, it was something that we had not seen here in town, I mean, ever.
And I forget just how odd it is what I do, or out of the ordinary.
Well, and beyond just the size of that sculpture and the precarious positions you had to be in. And if you haven't ever stopped and actually gotten up close to it and appreciated the detail, it really is truly amazing.
Well, I mean, that's how we met.
Yeah, my son
your
wanted
son's obsession with marble. So.
Yes, and he still is. But yeah, we had to stroll by every single day to see the progression, and it really is. So beyond Sylacauga Merging, then you moved into another large commission piece. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a Madonna and Child that's at St. Mark's Catholic Church on 119.
So
and it's well, I met my model Payne, and it was funny. I'd already designed the piece with. It's essentially Jesus behind the Virgin Mary, and sort of peeking around and holding on to her coattails. And I had already designed it. They had okayed the design, the drawing, and everything. And then week after week, Summer and Payne would come by, and Payne would get out of the stroller. He was a lot younger at that point.
Yeah, about 3 probably.
And he would peek around her just like the pose of the drawing, and you know. I guess I'm a little slow, but it took a few weeks, and it finally dawned on me. I was like, you know, there's my model. And but it's a interesting piece. A lot went into the design of it. The you know, in the Catholic Church, Mary plays a prominent role on many different levels, but this piece is about salvation and her role in salvation, and it's through Mary to Jesus to God in the Catholic religion, and so there's a lot of symbolism with she's looking down at baby Jesus, and Jesus is pointing to the heavens to God, and so sort of visually takes you through
Yeah, things that, I mean, there's so much forethought, I know, put into your work. Not only, does it look exactly, realistic, but just the symbolism and things like that, which is so meaningful, and I know it is for them. The only thing I hate about it is that it's not in Sylacauga, but at least it's right down the road so that it can be appreciated a little bit more. We're going to take a quick break, and we will come back with Craigor Brown on the Library Connection.
You've waited all year for this sale. Toyotathon is on right now, and it's the Toyota of Sylacauga grand reopening. You can get our lowest prices of the year today.
We're your Sylacauga Camry Connection. Right now, all new Toyota Camrys are discounted up to $6,000. All discounts clearly marked on vehicles.
Don't miss this one, Toyotathon, and the Toyota of Sylacauga grand reopening. Online 24/7 at toyotaofsylacauga.com.
Wright Tire and Service on West Fort Williams in Sylacauga is the right place for you. We carry the right tires for your car. Goodyear, Cooper, General, Michelin, and lots more. Wright Tire and Service is also your right choice when it comes to all of your automotive service needs. Whether it's an oil change, front end alignment, brake service, or air conditioner work, make the right choice the first time and stop by Wright Tire and Service, Sylacauga.
In Central Alabama, 9,100 kids face going to bed hungry tonight. Hunger doesn't take a day off. There are kids right here, right now, that don't know where they'll get their next meal. Join Alabama Childhood Food Solutions and help put an end to childhood hunger in Central Alabama. Make a difference. Donate today, by mail or online, to help ACFS feed hungry kids. There's no better time to share than now. Their next meal could come from you.
There's one pharmacy that's so much more than just a drugstore. That's Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga. From cards for all occasions, a huge selection of gifts, even great exclusive Alabama and Auburn stuff, all kinds of household needs, and a complete selection of over-the-counter meds and supplies that you would expect. We are more than just a drugstore, but with our friendly, courteous staff and all of our great extras, we ought to be your drugstore. We're Marble City Pharmacy in Ogletree Plaza. Cardin's Gift Cottage. Shop them early and shop them late. Shop Cardin's early for the area's best selection of great holiday decorations. Inside or outside, your home will look like a winter wonderland. And right up to the last minute, Cardin's has the most unique Christmas gift ideas you'll find. On second thought, don't shop them too late. You just might miss what you've been looking for at Cardin's Gift Cottage, West Fort Williams in Sylacauga.
Hello and welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Summer Newman Ernest, and again joining us is Craigor Brown, the sculptor, resident sculptor here in town. We've been talking a little bit about his background, educational background, how he fell into this career, and of course his most notable pieces such as Sylacauga Emerging that sits on the front lawn of City Hall or the municipal building. I want to talk about the piece that you've been working on over a year now. Tell us a little bit.
15 months.
Yeah, 15 months. So that's a great chunk of your life, and I know that it's been something that everybody in town has been watching the process evolve. Tell us a little bit about the piece, the commission, how it got started.
Well, the piece is actually a memorial to former Mayor Curtis Lyles, who was the mayor from 1972 to 76, and his wife. And he was instrumental in getting the blueprints drawn up for the current library and had a lot to do with urban renewal in Sylacauga and the way that the face of the town is now, or the city is now. And it's kind of heartwarming that his son has come along and sort of picked up where his father left off. And his father, you know, like I said, was instrumental in giving the city a facelift, essentially. And now that the focus again is back towards Marble, his son has come along and commissioned this piece as a memorial to his parents, but to go in front of the library and also as sort of carrying on the family legacy and at the same time.
And what better way, something that will be there forever.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
But it's a
mighty long time, right?
It's a reading scene, and it's essentially Curtis Lyles sitting in a wingback leather armchair reading to two grandchildren, and it's more about the sharing of knowledge, about generations passing down, you know, the past and sharing, you know, because we learn from our past.
Of course, of course.
And obviously we learn from reading. And I could have minored in history in college. I'm a huge history buff, but one thing I learned was if you'll read the literature of the time, and I'm talking about fiction,
yeah,
it will still give you a good feel about what society really was like then, instead of just the facts. And so, you know, it's sort of that, sort of a sharing of generation to generation. But I've also designed the piece where there'll be an empty cushion between the grandkids that'll be low, so local kids can come climb on it and get their picture made and kind of sit with the two grandkids and enjoy a little story time.
And so it'll be on the front lawn. If you've passed the library, you've already seen they're preparing for it, which is so exciting, because I know growing up, it was such a great thing to have the Whetstone piece in the library, which I know that it's actually moved to the museum. But as a kid, you know, and saying, what is it? Is it ice cream? Is it this or that? And so to have another grand piece there, because it's actually 4 separate sculptures.
Yeah, and it's started out as 40,000 pounds, which, you know, it was interesting. Discovering Alabama came, and they were filming during the sort of the final stages of Sylacauga emerging, some of the Madonna and Child, and then the beginning of this piece. And it was interesting, when we moved the stone from the quarry, there was chaos, people everywhere. We moved it in, cranes moving
not an
these
easy
huge blocks.
Process, no.
And then once all the fanfare and all the onlookers and film crews and everyone left, then I was standing there inside, I call it the cage, but with all this marble, and I just kind of scratched my head. It's like, what did I just agree to do? Oh my gosh. And so it's great to be on this side of it, and that, you know, it's been an amazing challenge, and I feel like I've been successful in pulling it off.
It is, and we're close, near completion with
Very
that,
close,
so I can't wait to see the installation. Just a quick mention about where you work, the Cage on Norton, that I know you have tons of visitors, which is wonderful because it does promote the city and sculpting. It might keep you from working a little bit, but I know that you have such a passion for it and for spreading that enthusiasm that everybody appreciates it. But it's the hospital's land, actually, right? Coosa Valley Medical Center.
Working with the Arts Council.
Right, and so they have so graciously allowed you to work there, and so we're appreciative for them. It's such a community effort, which I really love to see, being from Sylacauga and loving this town as much as I do.
Well, as artists, we typically kind of work in a little fortress of solitude, so it's been an adjustment for me. But at the same time, it's really good for the city in the sense of I've had people stop by from around the world, as well as, you know, obviously from all over the country. Everywhere from, you know, Seattle, Washington to New York to, and it's always interesting to hear the stories of where they're from. And
I'm sure.
We had no idea you had this marble here.
Well, since it is the Library Connection, I would say that single-handedly the Spears, both Ted and Shirley, and the B.B. Comer Library have played probably the most pivotal role in promoting marble, whether it be through the Marble Festival that the Arts Council has sponsored, going on, I guess, 7 years. This will be the 7th year this spring. And just in the library in general, because so many people, I know I'm in the library all the time, but that's because I have a child who is over the moon about reading and checking out books. But tell us a little bit about pieces in the library, things that you might even have on display or for sale.
Well, the library's kind of evolved into the epicenter of the the ground shaking of the marble coming back, and the Marble Festival, and something that I kept hearing over and over is there's nothing for sale. There's nothing for us to have, to buy, to, you know, and
the average Joe can't commission a piece.
Exactly, and you know, and unfortunately, because of the material and the amount of time that's involved, it gets pricey quickly.
Exactly.
But I've tried to do a lot of smaller pieces that are available in the library, and then there are pieces on loan, there are pieces that are in the permanent collection from the Marble Festival, there are pieces that are for sale in there by different artists that have participated in the Marble Festival. But with these, you know, the hearts more than anything, it started out as sort of a little side fun thing that I do on rainy days.
Right.
And they've really kind of turned into business cards for the city.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they've gone all over the world. They've gone all over the United States also. And I know it's hard to believe, but the librarians got on to me wanting bookends. So I started making some bookends.
Of course,
too,
everybody needs bookends. Well, and so these are available for purchase.
Exactly, at the library.
Right, hearts, bookends. And I'm sure, you know, there's other things as well, but this is something that's so easy for presents, for Christmas. You know, for people from Sylacauga, it's just a pride thing, you know, to be able to share it, I think.
And again, it's a great business card for the city. And I tell people the story of Sylacauga Marble when they purchase it.
Right.
And so they know that.
Right.
Because when it's sitting in their home in, you know, New York, upstate New York, well, where'd you get that? And they can tell the story of the beautiful marble in Sylacauga, Alabama.
Well, and so if you haven't had a chance to go by the library, look and see not only the ones that are on display, but so many for sale. Something else that I wanted to lead into. Well, go ahead.
Well, also with the library and Dr. Ted Spears with the Marble Festival, you know, all the different sculptors, their work is there. And it's all been really on the tireless work of Ted Spears and Dr. Shirley Spears all in support. And, you know, this is a great time in Sylacauga. You know, I know a lot of you have heard about the transition going on and with the quarry. And what's happened is Sam Wright and Dr. Ted have created this beautiful thing with the Marble Festival and have created an interest again in Alabama marble and Sylacauga marble, to the point that, you know, the people that make countertops and tiles, they couldn't keep it in stock. So the interest has started, the groundswell, and now we have a group actually out of Birmingham who are partners with a group out of China, and it's the TBGS group. And Roy Swindle, his family's been in the stone business. It's Architectural Stone is the name of his company, and he's done buildings all over the world. And he's out of Birmingham, but his family's been in the business for 60 years, and they revere the marble as a precious stone, the way that I, as a sculptor, do.
Right, right.
And their partners are Mr. Tan, who is from China, and you know, a long list of philanthropy. He gives back to the community. He gives back, builds schools, hospitals, you know, and just really a giving person. And what was interesting, through an interpreter, I gave him my business card holder, and it was from some marble that was probably mined about 100 years ago here in Sylacauga, and just a really beautiful example of Sylacauga marble. And to see the way that he revered the stone, it was amazing, and kind of relating it to white jade, which is the most precious, sought-after jade in the world, and you know, this Sylacauga marble is held in the same reverence, and just a beautiful thing. But they financially are going to be able to meet that demand, and they're going to promote it worldwide. They're going to promote it in the United States with the Natural Stone Expo this year, and Dubai and Italy, so we're going head-to-head against the Italians.
Good, good.
And then also in China as well.
Well, you know, and all the, of course, any change can be scary, but I think that it's going to be a wonderful step forward for the future of Sylacauga marble.
It's the natural, it really is the next natural step, and that, you know, and all the groundwork's been put in place with Dr. Wright, and I mean, Mayor Wright and Dr. Ted, but you know, it's just wonderful to see. The potential is just unbelievable.
It's wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to see your work. There's so many other things that we didn't even get to, things that you're doing in the community and educating young people, bringing in camera crews from Alabama Public Television. We'll have to get together another time, because I know as soon as the library piece is over that you have another huge commission that we are super excited about here in Sylacauga for Helen Keller. It's going to be Helen Keller. We don't have time today to talk about it, but do you promise that you'll come back and we will discuss it?
I'll do it.
And we can't wait to see as that begins, that process. Thanks, Craig, so much for being with us today. This is the Library Connection.